This is Van Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Andy Paige, and she's Pearl on ABC's General Hospital. And you're a spokesperson for General Hospital, and you've got some other things going on with your own business. But we wanted to talk to you today because you came to us, and we always love talking to great artists and creative people from around the world. So thank you for being on the Van Electric Ghost podcast tonight.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. Yes, I am the latest cast member of General Hospital. And usually the first question everyone, asks me when I tell them that is, that's still on the air? I'm like, yes. Believe it or not, General Hospital has been on the air for 61 seasons, 61 years. It's the longest running television show in television history.
Yeah, I remember like back in the day, I was telling you, like I'm a child of the 70s. So Luke and Laura, that arc, I was totally into that. Well, everybody, my generation was probably into that. But
Yeah,
it's
there
just amazing that it's still on the air.
it is. And the thing that it's also incredible is it's just given birth to so many amazing celebrities. I mean, Elizabeth Taylor was on General Hospital.
Yeah,
The character of Blackie was John Stamos. I mean, it's just
yeah.
endless. All the Rick Springfield,
Rick
there's so
Springfield, I
many.
remember. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
so
there's so many people.
interesting. He's a doctor. He's a rock star.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So, and what I'm doing is something that's completely different, and it's really it's innovative, and it's a bit of an experiment. But most of us are watching television in very different ways. Many of us don't really watch broadcast television anymore. We tend to stream. Like, do you stream TV?
yeah. I end up watching. Well, I'm kind of an oddball. I watch a lot of like K drama.
Oh,
I watch a
yeah.
lot of like Korean dramas because I lived in Asia for a while. So I actually spend a lot of time watching like, Japanese TV, Korean
How cool
TV,
is
Chinese
that?
TV. Well,
Oh,
I
I
just
love
like
that.
I don't know, I like really long dramas. They go like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 episodes.
Oh, wow. Well, but you have to stream that, right? I mean, unless you have a
Yeah,
way
yeah,
to
I
reach.
stream
Yeah.
it, yeah, on the different sites that will show it, and I actually watch it with the subtitles, but to listen to the Korean or the Japanese, 'cause I like to hear the actors, how they actually express themselves, but
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, so the point that I was making is that, it's wonderful that we have the opportunity now to stream TV and avoid all of the ads. But the reality is that the ads are what pay for television, which is
yeah,
why, it was called a soap opera because, soap paid for it. Right.
yeah.
So, I'm actually on the show as a host on Home and Heart, which is the storyline of a shopping channel within General Hospital. So I'm a host along with Morgan Fairchild. Do you remember Morgan
Yeah,
Fairchild?
yeah, I know who she is.
Can you? I'm sure you did. Did you have her on your wall like most boys?
Probably.
So Morgan Fairchild is my co-host at Home and Heart, and they came up with the concept of starting to develop products within specific storylines and bringing those products to Home and Heart. And just as you would any other home shopping channel, kind of pitching them, but it's within the storyline. And then you
Wow,
can go to shophomeandheart.com and you can buy those products. And all of the products at shophomeandheart.com are products that you've seen be a part of the storylines of General Hospital. So it's
that's
just it's marketing, it's innovative, it's advertising, it's ultimately keeping the show alive. And I think if it works, because we are kind of the first to do it, I think that everything that we watch is going to have it's going to give you the opportunity to buy something no matter what it is. I mean, I liken it to, like, did you ever watch Happy Days, and like, where did you love
yeah,
the Fonz? Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
imagine if you could buy the Fonz's jacket.
yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense because I'm on live TV, like the Honeymooners. They used to have these like live things and where they would actually pitch things in between the breaks, you know,
Oh.
but they
Oh,
would
live
actually do it like
commercials.
live. Yeah,
Yeah,
live
yeah,
commercials
yeah.
within the live TV framework, like Playhouse 90, some of the old shows. Cause I like old TV, but there was like that kind of thing happening. So it makes sense that now today it's like, oh, integrate like products into the show. I mean, people see it on movies. They'll throw like a Pepsi here, or they'll throw a car here. People, somebody's wearing it's kind of hidden, but it's there. But you're being more elaborate and specific about it.
Well, one of the storylines is the storyline of Deception Beauty. And Deception Beauty has these amazing, high-powered, gorgeous women who run this beauty company, and they have developed all these fictional products for over 2 decades. The Deceptor, which is a red light therapy beauty wand, or Deceiver serums and makeup and all this stuff. And so the fans have actually watched the development of a lot of these products for years, but now they're bringing them to life. So, the first thing that they launched was like this red light therapy wand, which if you watched, General Hospital, you've seen that storyline and the development of how that was, and getting prototypes and licensing it, and just, the education of how to develop a product. And now it is something that is available at shophomeandheart.com. So that's my role. I actually am a QVC host. It is something that I do for a living. But then I was also kind of tapped to be a part of General Hospital in this way. And believe it or not, this is my very first acting role. I've never had an acting role. So this is also, it's been such an education and so fascinating.
So how did you get pulled into the General Hospital? They just thought it would link because you were working with the QVC. It was just a synergy.
Yes, that was it. But even bigger than that, so during the early 2000s, I was really a part of a lot of makeover television. So I've done hundreds of episodes of television. For 3 years, I was the makeover, kind of guru, the beauty and style expert on a show called Starting Over. And I did
Oh,
hundreds of makeovers on that show. And then I had another show that I did called 10 Years Younger, where I helped women look 10 years younger. And how do I look? And then I had my own show called Sense of Style. So I did the bulk of kind of all of that makeover television, when makeover television was just so hot. And then it sort of died off. But in that time, I worked with a lot of producers, and those producers have all gone on to do different things. And it just happened that, one of the producers that's on this project remembered me from
remembered
literally
you.
20 years ago, and saw on my LinkedIn page that I was now a QVC host. And she called me on a Thursday, and I had the job on a Friday. It's crazy.
Well, it's interesting because like it's the Rolodex you have with your life always like ends up building the opportunities. As an artist and a musician, like you get opportunities because the people you run into. With this podcast, I've interviewed people and then been able to actually work with them on their
Yeah.
projects. Just
Yeah. I
because like,
mean,
oh, I remember you. I saw this show. You interviewed this band. I thought it was interesting. Maybe I could work with you on this. And so yeah, it just seems like when you get out there, you never know like what you're doing now will lead to something you're doing in the future.
yeah, you're always planting seeds. So you don't eat the fruit the same day you plant the seed. But if you show up on time, if you put your best foot forward, if you can be remembered as someone who makes most situations better and not worse, and you kind of always do your best, believe it or not, that leaves a lasting impression. I mean, it certainly has in me. When I think of people that I've worked with in the past, if I hear a name, I immediately think of positive or negative. So if you are on the positive side of things, yeah, you never know when that fruit is going to bear.
Yeah, it's important to have that kind of not be such a pessimist about things. Because a lot of times people are scared to be authentic or vulnerable. When you get into
That's very
acting,
true.
that's like your secret sauce is to be able to pull the character out, right? To be able to make it feel authentic, right?
That was really hard for me because, as a QVC host, and I'm trained to really kind of express my opinion and how it makes me feel. And, like if I
Mhm.
take something, just like a simple pen, and I'm talking about it on air, I really have to explain it in a way that, of course, gives you all the features and benefits. But it's really, I'm creating a connection with the audience, and I'm expressing my opinion and selling to them from my heart. And so, when I get this script, and I am supposed to bring that same and emote those same feelings with someone else's words, it was a very big shift. Let me tell you, it was a
Well, the
really big
writer,
shift.
yeah. So if we have to deal with a writer, and then you have to
Yeah,
translate that. If every actor brings those words to life with their own, capability, because it's like it's your individual, you know, acting talent that takes those words and makes them real. And
it
it's
is.
like how
And it is a talent. Let me tell you, it is most definitely a talent. I have learned that. I there's so much to learn about being on set. I mean, I knew from reality television that so many more people were involved than, the viewer has any idea. But when it comes to a show like this, I mean, General Hospital creates 250 hours of broadcast television a year. That is, I mean, it is amazing. And my first day on set, I was in scene number 47 and 49. I mean, think about that. They usually film anywhere from 50 to 60 scenes a day. They start at 5 o'clock
Wow.
in the morning and they go to noon. They break for 1 hour from lunch and then film from 1 to 8 at night. And the
Wow.
wardrobe and the makeup and just lighting and the assistants. I mean, what it takes to put on that show is absolutely unbelievable. So I'm actually thrilled that, they are figuring out how to stay current and relevant and give fans, what they're interested in and still garner, almost 3 million people watching every single day. It's pretty amazing to be a part of.
I think that's awesome because I didn't even know like the way the state of the world is if soap operas were still a thing. So this is the first time.
They are a thing. And the other thing that you should know is there are 2 new soap operas actually being introduced this year on different networks. So the pendulum is kind of swinging back in that, I think we've just talked ourselves to death. I mean, how many talk shows and news magazines can there be? I think people are, I think people are, and politics and all of it. It's like, you almost need an escape from everyone else's opinion and all the news.
24-hour news channel all day is like, that's a little overwhelming. Maybe I want to go back to like the way I used to watch General Hospital with Luke and Laura,
Yeah, people want to get back to a story. So, almost every network will have some sort of daytime drama now. And of course, a lot of the traditional ones have gone away. But the fact that there are 2 new ones this year, I think is pretty interesting because I do think that people are just interested in following a story and a little escapism.
Well, I think it's important because, the whole thing about the reality TV, it takes away from like, I think people want a little drama. They want the fantasy of a fictional story because it keeps their mind off. You watch TV. Do you really want to see the things that are stressing you out? Or when I grew up, it was like, I'm going to watch I Dream of Jeannie. I'm going to watch, Gilligan's Island. It was kind of like it wasn't going to deal with what was going on outside or what's on news because what's on the news was like Vietnam. So of course I probably want to watch Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. And the other thing that is just the plain truth of the matter is so much of what is going on in the world, we can affect so little of it. I 5 years ago, I insisted that we turn off all news. I haven't allowed news in my household for over 5 years. So I don't consume news. I'm not interested in it. I get all of my news through conversation. So I actively ask people, when I'm in a restaurant or I'm at the grocery store, I spark conversation. I ask people kind of what's going on. And it has been, it's been such a joy maker in my life, not especially the news, to learn about the news, but to at least, make new connections through this way of me just being curious.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I think people just have to find a way to be comfortable, with how the world is today, and this having an outlet like General Hospital is really cool, and I really do think it's interesting the way you've integrated like the actual, you know, soap idea of like selling soap, but now you have this shopping thing within the storyline. I still kind of amazed by that in
I
terms
have
of
to tell you, if it works, if this experiment works, and so far we think it is, I think that it is going to be the way that everything is going to be created. So I think that no matter what the show, even if it's your Korean dramas, if there's something like, like this clock on the wall, or this shirt that I have on, or a hat that a character is wearing, you can ultimately will be able to dial it up and you'll be able to purchase it. So I think that it's going to make a huge difference in how we are consumers and how we consume television and what we are being, sold. I think the connection that a lot of these characters have with the public really lends itself to building a level of trust. And I think it's also why so many celebrities have their own brands now, because,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
when you have a connection with someone, you just, you know, want to follow them and have a belief in what they believe in.
I think it's with the technology, you'll be able to like anything in the scene could get monetized, and
Yeah.
you could even like touch it, like if you're watching it on an iPad and you just hover over something and it's like, oh, I actually can buy that.
It's going to
That
happen.
you'd have that integration, and I think advertisers and people who want to think about marketing, that is this amazing level of marketing that like the whole set is an opportunity. The whole
Yeah. And
scene is an
that's what we're going
opportunity.
to have. That's absolutely what we're going to have. This is the beginning. You know, well, you talk about, you know, the evolution of where we have come from. There was product placement. There's been, like you said, live commercials within a show, you know, back in the day. So this is the next level. And I think it's really, really fascinating. And the other thing that you have to know is, you know, we're talking about, you know, network television. So everything, you know, has been vetted, and you know, there's a lot that has gone into all of the licensing and everything to develop the you know, the deceptor red light therapy and like all of it. So there's a lot of people who are excited about this, and there's a lot of investment and ingenuity and innovation. And I think it's wonderful to be at the precipice of something so big.
So in terms of like your own interest in I guess inventions and beauty ideas and things you've been, so do you have like your own brands, or that you're in,
I,
like your own
I
things that you've
do.
worked on?
Yeah, you know, I appreciate you asking, because what happened was, you know, when I started in reality television, I often struggled with a place to put my mic pack. You know, I'm someone who tends to wear a lot of dresses, and you know, a lot of it's just very difficult to find a place to put your transmitter, as you know from
Hmm.
being in
Yeah,
production.
usually. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, they hang it on your bra, or, you know, they there's different straps that they'll put around your waist, but, you know, it's very bulky. And for me, after, you know, in reality television, you work long hours. So after you've worn a transmitter for 12 hours, I would just get water blisters. It was very uncomfortable. So
Oh, man.
I actually set out to invent a hands-free kind of purse that you wear on your leg. And of course, there was something like that already on the market, but once you got hot and sweaty, it would fall down. It just wouldn't
Oh,
work with your body. So I invented the Girly Go Garter, and I've patented the adhesive that actually adheres it to your leg, and it will hold up to 3 pounds, and it works with the heat of your body so that you can run, jump, and it will hold 2 transmitters or whatever it is. And so that product actually holds 19 patents. We are in 80 countries, and we at
wow.
our height we were in about 6,000 stores. But what I learned was, of course, it's wonderful for studio services and to be used in the audio realm, but it's also a solution for girls who are insulin dependent and need a place to put their insulin pump on their wedding day or prom or anytime they're wearing a dress. And for that matter, if you are, on your wedding day, you can't let the purse down the aisle. So if you want to carry, your essentials, it just wraps around the leg, and it's very accessible, and you can carry everything. Like I said, whether a purse, or excuse me, you're going to a carnival or a concert or anything like that, it's just right underneath your skirt.
Wow. So you got a lot of hats.
Yeah. Well, you know what I do is I listen. So, I firmly believe that, God wouldn't give you the nugget of an idea if he hadn't already figured out the path of how to create it. So I came to create the Girly Go Garter in kind of a tragic way. I don't know if you noticed in my bio, but 15 years ago, I cut off my right foot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was just a few days away from, going back to Los Angeles and starting to film, a next season of 10 Years Younger. And I was in a very dramatic cliff diving accident. I sat and I watched all of these people jump off a cliff, and I wanted to do it. And I climbed up and stood in line and waited my turn. And then I jumped wrong. And
Oh,
so I kind of missed the water, and the rock severed my foot. And I was really fortunate that I could grab my foot. It literally held on by tissue of skin, but I grabbed it so it didn't fall to the bottom of the sea. And I of course, could not go forward with, that season of my show. And I spent, 10 years and 7 surgeries, trying to rehabilitate myself and getting myself back to a point where I could walk really successfully. But while I was in the hospital, after that first 2 weeks of just being so angry and upset with myself and the universe, and, I got real quiet, and I remembered that I had created this item. And, I was very busy. So I had just finished my book tour, and I was getting ready to, do the next season of the show. And I thought to myself, well, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do next. And so from the hospital bed, I started working on the Girly Go Garter and trying to figure out who could help me and what I need to do. And I got a provisional patent, and I had never thought about, developing anything. If anything, I thought I would just give the idea to someone else, or maybe work in collaboration with someone else. I never thought I could do it myself. But here I was stuck in a bed, and I put my heart and soul into it because I didn't know if I'd ever walk again. And it took about 2 years for me to figure out how to get it made, bring the prototype to life. I got my very first patent on it, and raised a little money, wrote a business plan, and I was able to birth the Girly Go Garter. So we're 15 years in. It's almost, to the day of my accident, of when I really started to work on it. And I'm really, really proud of it. It is something that I never thought I would do, but I have a lot of experience in developing products now.
Did you have any initial resistance from like the industry and being able to do this, where you took more of a hands-on approach and didn't give it to other people? Because maybe people
Yeah.
felt like, well, maybe because this is not your area, you should give it to me and I'll do it.
Oh,
But
yes.
you stuck to your guns, and you had a vision, so you wanted it
It's
to be more like what you wanted, right?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I was offered, I think like $100,000 for the idea. My agent was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? What if we just sell the idea?" And that was it was a thought for a little while, but I was like, I don't know that I'm going to be able to work again. So
So you wanted another
if I can't, yeah, if I can't,
option.
continue on this path, I feel like this is something I can learn, I can do. This is, this is my next step. So I became an inventor, a patented inventor, and
An entrepreneur.
brought this, brought this product to life. And it still exists. We still are doing extremely well. It's a whole other company. It's awesome. Yeah, it's called the Girly Go Garter, and we've got 3 different line extensions, and so that's been a wonderful education. And my family, I forget who it was, maybe it was my grandfather, used to say, you can't fall off the floor. So when you are literally at the bottom and you're like, what am I supposed to do now? You just have to stop and listen. And I just kind of, whenever I'm at those points in my life, if you listen, I feel like the universe will give you some ideas. And I don't believe that God would give you an idea if he didn't have the path for you. So I listened, and I actually went to Asia to help, develop the product on crutches. I was
Wow.
so determined. So anyway, yeah, that's a whole other phase of my life. And yes, I have developed products, and it's wonderful to be kind of the mother of invention, if you will.
Well, you're an author, you're
Yep.
like on TV, and you're also on the radio, where you're on the KJOY 898.3. You have like a
Yeah.
weekly show.
Yeah. So I've been doing radio ever since I've been doing television. I always used to do it hand in hand. And I'm fortunate that, when I had my accident and I wasn't in front of the camera anymore, radio was still there. And so I did radio from my hospital room. I did radio from everywhere. No matter where I was traveling, radio really sustained me. It kept me connected. It kept me, feeling fresh and current and staying on top of things. So I'm really grateful for radio, and I still do it every Monday. So I've been
That's
doing radio
interesting.
now for 25 years.
Well, because the way the world is with like podcasting and online, you would think in some places, like, well, the radio, like rock radio, is kind of in a place where it's not as vital as it used to be, because there's all these other places you can get music, like streaming. But it's interesting that radio, like General Hospital, is still there, right? It still has a place in media, because it still serves like an audience that likes the idea of being able to get a radio frequency station and listen to it. It's not dead yet. It's still like a viable media.
Most definitely. Local radio is not going anywhere. I think local radio is it's still a fabulous source. People feel connected to it. You learn about your community. Everything is kind of tailored to your service area, if you will. So I think local radio is great. And of course, very similar to streaming television, you can stream almost anything when you're in the car as well. But I do think that local radio still is extremely vital, and I don't see it going anywhere. So I'm really fortunate that I'm still a part of it.
But your international best-selling book, that Style on a Shoestring, can you talk about how you developed that and how, what was the impetus behind that?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for bringing it up. So, I come from a very small town in Alabama, and I'm fortunate that I was raised primarily by my grandparents and my great grandparents who lived right across the street. And, my grandmother growing up made almost all of my clothes. So there was this belief, she believed really firmly that, if we always put our best foot forward and we presented ourselves a certain way, that, we would not be poorly judged for not having a lot, because we didn't. We were, lower income people. So my grandmother would could see a picture in a magazine and really create that. She had the ability to sew anything and to create beautiful clothes. And so I became very aware at a young age that how I presented myself was ultimately how I was going to be judged, and not if how many commas were in my bank account. So I learned, as I'm a high school dropout. I dropped out of high school and moved to New York at the age of 17, and got my GED and got into college. But I'm a high school dropout from a rural Alabama, so you can imagine I had a few things to prove. And I certainly wanted to make everyone back home proud. But, one of the ways that I kept my relevance, and I, encouraged people to listen to me and not dismiss me as being an idiot, was really how I showed up. So I learned that if I could, present myself with polish and care, not spending a lot of money, but with intention, that it really helped solidify, my role, and in many times got me, at least a foot in the door. So all of the skills that I teach in my book, Style on a Shoestring, really have to do with how to up level your game, how to present yourself in a new way, because we have the ability to recreate ourselves every single day. And just because we weren't born with the skills doesn't mean that you can't learn the skills. So my book is about learning the skills and how to build a wardrobe, how to present yourself with more polish, and do it on a shoestring budget, so that, it's kind of the ultimate deception, if you will.
We can get to give you that etiquette, to be like in the place that you want to be. Like a lot of times people don't know how to present themselves. It's like 'cause how you show up in the world is really important. And if you don't have like the skill set to know how to do that naturally or just off the cuff, it's cool that you provided like a roadmap, or at least shown people like what you did. And then it's like a lessons learned that you can kind of level other people up.
Yeah. And I mean, again, so many, I hear this, people talk to me about money all the time, oh, I have an idea, but I don't have the money. Or I wish I could wear that, but, I don't think I could afford it. And it is, everything I do is on a budget. Because I had much rather invest in my community and invest in service and invest in, my kids than invest in something, that I'm going to put on my back. So don't get me wrong. I love to look nice, but, I really relish the notion that I can look like a million without spending a fortune.
Yeah, well, a lot of it's all kind of show in no go. I mean, like you can get the really expensive thing, but like if you're able to still present right without having to buy the name brand fashion brand, it's not going to take all your money. Like and the problem is a lot of people will go and gravitate to something that's way beyond what they can afford just to get that level up. And if you provide them a way to level up that's like within budget, well, that's common sense. But also you're still leveling up.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and social media has really fed a few generations now of people who are living way beyond their means. And
Yeah.
so, we're all adults here, but there has to be there has to be some sensible thought to a lot of this. So, my book is, I'm fortunate; it's been translated into 3 languages and it's available in 14 countries. There's some real, logical life skills, some applications. So, I am really proud of my book. Yeah, it's called Style on a Shoestring.
That's awesome. So in addition, you're a podcaster. Like you have a lot of hats, like I said.
Yeah. So, again, I'm a listener, right? So, this is my latest obsession, Phantom. And you tell me how you feel about this. I am obsessed with modern dating. Obsessed. I mean, are you happily married? Are you married? Like, what's
I'm
your love
married.
life?
I'm married with a 25-year-old daughter, but I had some people on previously that were talking about the dating world and like the kind of app based people having to like they get addicted to clicking or clicking on people or
Yeah.
clicking through. And the problem is it gets kind of addictive. At least like what I've heard is people go into, and it's like kind of like, well, if you keep on going on a first date all the time, then you're not going to know how to deal with like a regular relationship, like a relationship that has up and downs. You're looking for something that's like temporary or perfect for that moment, but things aren't like that. So then you've got this
Well,
expectation that's not realistic.
there's a lot of unrealistic expectations in modern dating. And so my podcast that I'm going to launch with the first 5 episodes, I have 2 in the can. I'm working on 3 more. Hopefully it's going to launch next month. But I want to launch with 5 solid ones that I really love. But anyway, it's called The Dating Lab with the Hillbilly
Mhm.
Yenta. And I'm the Hillbilly Yenta because I'm from Alabama and my husband is, he's a Boston man and he's half Jewish and he's the one who coined me the Hillbilly Yenta. He's like, "You're such a Yenta. You're a Hillbilly Yenta." So it's called The Dating Lab with the Hillbilly Yenta. And I am really just having conversations about modern dating. And I'm learning about what you were just talking about. I'm learning about ghosting and the lost art of flirting and how so many men have kind of lost their drive and women have lost their power. And the other thing is, listen to this. Did you know that the top 10 dating apps are all owned by the same hedge fund?
Well, that's not surprising.
Well, I was floored.
There's a lot of brands that are all one thing. And like I've always found that lately that like all you go to a store and like there's 20 things on the shelf and it's the same company that owns
Well,
them all.
I see your
You know,
point. I was shocked because what they have learned is that with the dating apps, when you are successful, they are failing because when you find love, you have to get off the app. And
well, you drop
so
the app.
really the algorithms and everything about the dating apps is about keeping you on the dating apps. It's not about helping you find love.
Yeah, not gonna
So
be happy. You're never
that
gonna be happy.
yeah. So that has been a huge eye opener. And there are lots of young people who are, doing their best to get off the apps. There's new services where people are trying to start to date and find love kind of in an old fashioned way but with a little assistance. But there's so much more to it. I feel like masculinity has become this toxic bad thing, and I love men. I think men are awesome. I love male opinion. I love that they're different. I think femininity has become all about sexuality, and I think that femininity is the most powerful thing in the universe. And I'm kind of like, wait a minute, why is everything so sexualized? So I delve into all of that. Yeah, so this is my latest obsession. Is I'm completely obsessed with modern dating, even though I am happily married. And so I'm just on a deep dive of exploration to kind of figure out what is going on.
That's interesting. In terms of, yeah, it has been a big. I think it's a big problem because for social development because if you people back in the day before you had smartphones, like you would meet somebody at a poetry reading. Like I go mountain biking or hiking and I meet people that like to do the same thing. And
Yeah.
so, I'm a mountain biker. So there, eventually we found some women that we knew at work or through other things, and they started riding with us. And we weren't trying to date them, we just rode for months and months, just trying to the challenge of the trail was just by being in a real life thing that we love to do. Like I love to go read poetry, and I would go read poetry, and then you meet people that actually are talking to you because they liked what you said on stage, right? And then they read a poem and you like what they said on stage. And then you had something in common to talk about. And it wasn't just about clicking through some app to find some algorithm or to find some fake picture or that you actually
Well,
have
is that how
something in
you found
common.
your wife?
Yeah, I found my wife, but through like poetry and I'm a musician and an artist, so she's a playwright. She needed music. We found each other because we were in the same kind of zones. Like she's a playwright putting on a play. She needed music for the play. I'm a musician. Started working on that, creating music for the play, and we were just working on that. We weren't even thinking about dating. Then so we get hungry, maybe we go have dinner. But we still talk about the play, talk about it. But eventually, you just because you're having a real conversation, and it wasn't about like being on a date. I think the problem is like if you're just saying I'm on the date, right? What if you were just on life and you meet somebody and you kind of have something in common? If you're purposely trying to date, then you're kind of closing the situation and you're not allowing something to evolve like naturally. I know that's just my take on it, but I think that's the problem. If you're trying to just do all these dates, then you're not actually like you're kind of taking away like the natural progression of connection.
Well, and the other, I definitely agree with you. Dating is a whole other platform that has, again, a lot of expectations, right? So we're bringing a lot of expectations to all of those meetings. And so when you're just meeting someone organically, you're not walking around, praying that this is going to be the one. But the other thing that's happening is we don't really put ourselves in situations where we have the opportunity to meet a lot of people. Most women I know go to work or then they go to yoga class or a bar class. There's really no men there. They go out with their girlfriends. They're very, if you sit with 2 or 3 women in a bar, most men are not going to approach
Yeah,
you.
I gotta approach it.
Yeah, we're not really putting ourselves in situations where we're cracking the window for someone to either approach us or in some way flirt with us or something like that. So, and then there's no flirting allowed at work anymore, right? That's been beat
No,
out of
no,
us.
yeah,
Like
you
you
can't. Yeah, the
so
workplace is like it's not kind of like I guess if you're on college campus and you join some club, you join the international club, or you're in this club, or you're in the debate club, you can meet people. But like in the work environment, it's so like you're stuck doing that for 12 hours, right?
yeah.
Do you go to the bar? Maybe that's not the best place. You go to the club, that's probably not the best place.
Well, we
So
think about the principles of flirting. Okay. So the principles of flirting are like eye contact. You hold someone's eye contact for a few seconds and then you smile. You want to compliment them and, open, some sort of notification that you're attracted. So usually that's by complimenting someone. And then it's just some sort of, passive, nothing aggressive touch. So eye contact, a compliment, and some really innocent touch is, the 3 prongs ultimately of flirting, right? Well, all of those have basically become obsolete. My children in school and college were taught never to really communicate or express an opinion on someone's appearance. Like you're not supposed to have an opinion on someone's appearance, right? That or at least
yeah,
not supposed to express it. Okay. You all of them are scared to death to have eye contact, and touching is out of the question, right? So we have like this lost ability to really be able to express our natural attraction to someone through flirting, because all of it has kind of been given a bad moniker, or in some way has been taught that it's bad. So again, this is something that I'm crazy curious about. Like, how are we going to mate and relate if everything that is in our DNA we're now being told is bad?
yeah, and then they have to go on the dating app, and then the dating app isn't really about having a real finding a soulmate. It's not really about finding a real connection. It's
No,
about
it's about getting another $99.
doom scrolling your way through there for them to get more money.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So anyway, so this is my podcast, and I'm learning so much. I've been on this podcast tour, if you will, for this past week, talking about General Hospital and all of the innovations there. And when this was pitched to me, I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to do that, because I, was developing my own podcast. But I'm learning that podcasts are really a place where people, at least listeners, have a lot of trust in, because this is normal conversation. It's very organic. And so there is a lot of things. That's right. There are things that are explained, and you really have the forum to delve deep and to really take things to another level. So I am loving it.
Well, I think what I love about podcasting, I've been doing it since 2016. This actually is like episode 1163. I come crazy.
Congratulations.
But I just found it to be a really authentic way to communicate. My story was like a guy found me on SoundCloud, a guy named Rock Tunes back in 2016, said, hey, I want to interview on a podcast. And I said, well, what's that? And he said, well, it's kind of like the radio, but we have a talk. I said, okay. So we had our first episode, and it was just about my music. And then we ended up liking each other so much, we started to do a podcast about music in general. Wow. So we did a podcast for like 6 months, just talking about our love of classic music, like any genre, just anything that was highly rated or known to be a really good. The Hendrix, we were just going through talking about it in detail. And then eventually he kind of said, well, I can't do it anymore. And I said, well, why don't I actually take this idea and start interviewing emerging and independent artists? And I just went on Instagram and I had a pitch. And I would ask, if I saw a new band, I said, hey, would you like a behind the music type of interview? And, maybe I talked to 10, 20 bands, and maybe 1 to 4 bands a month would pick me up on the opportunity. And that's how I started. And then it just grew to be able to talk to like anybody who's creative, anybody who's an artist, and, people who are therapists and stuff, because they help artists when they go through trouble. So I just started becoming very expansive, and I found it to be kind of open-ended, and we just kept on going, and it's, went from audio to video, and that's where we are today. We were just able to talk to people from all different walks of life in a very, it feels like a regular conversation that you'd have with anybody. That's why I like the idea of the podcast. It's not staged, at least the way I do it. I don't do it staged.
No, and most people don't. I mean, it's very comfortable. And I love hearing how it all started for you, and that you've been doing it so long. So that's like 8 years.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And you just get new opportunities. We just joined, like a network. We're on Podmatch Network as official podcast on that network, on their network now. We've been getting opportunities with different, vendors and stuff, like Newsly is a sponsor for me. And so it just gives you a lot of opportunities. I get a lot of referrals to authors and actors. And then I get to talk to other musicians, and sometimes the musicians want to work with me. And I work with them, and we work on ideas, we work on stuff. And it's like you never know what opportunities are going to come, because you show up. If you show up, then the opportunities happen.
It is so true. So tell me who your favorite guest was. I mean, 8 years is a lot. Who's been your favorite guest?
I had a really good guest. The Waterflower is a musician from Latvia, and she is a synthesist, and she actually connects electrodes to mushrooms and plants and uses them to do her music. Right? That she actually picks up like the waves, the living plants and fungus and mushrooms actually have like frequencies that will drive her equipment, and she makes music out of it. And it was a really cool. I have the interviews from a couple of years back, but that was just so cool that she did that type of work, that I was really like, just drawn to a very quirky, different idea. That's a really cool idea. I never saw anybody do that.
Oh my gosh, her name was what flower? What was it called?
Waterflower. She's an artist from
Waterflower.
Latvia.
Oh
She's
my
been on tour.
gosh.
She's been on tour since she was on tour real heavy last year, and parts of this year. She was doing a lot of shows in Europe and different parts of the world, and she's really cool. Her interview is on
Yes.
my YouTube channel.
She sounds really cool. Well, that is awesome. Oh my, I mean, and how inventive and genius. I've never even heard of such a thing. But they do say, that trees communicate with each other and that plants communicate with each other. So I suppose this is just, the evolution of that. Now then she's synthesizing it, right?
Yeah, well, everything kicks off electricity. So if you have a way to pick it up, and then the frequencies vary. And so, like, I'm a synthesist, and part of being a synthesist is like, we work with these oscillators that play with these sound waves. And the triggers come from my fingers, like playing the keyboard, or they come from sequencers or clocks. But if you connect it to something organic, it will pick up that signal and drive it. So
Oh my
it's
gosh.
kind of cool. Like what you can do.
It's genius. It's genius.
Yeah.
I definitely want to hear that. I'm so glad you told me. I'm going to go back and listen to that one. I'm so intrigued. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, she was cool. I mean, I've had to talk to a lot of different people, like but Billy Hume, who is a Grammy Award-winning producer, he worked with Lil Jon. He was working on a new project called Tokyo Teens, and he's a great producer. He's got he's a Grammy Award-winning, and so I thought that was really cool that I was able to talk to somebody like that level. But you never know. I talk to different people. I've talked to actors and film directors and stuff too. But I just thought that was cool to that somebody decided to talk to a podcaster. I'm not super big. I'm not like Joe Rogan, but I can still get people who are pretty cool. They come on the show, so I just appreciate all the guests that come on the show.
Have you ever been to Jazz Fest in New Orleans?
I want to, because of COVID. I haven't traveled lately, but I used to travel more. Yeah, that's on my bucket list. To go to the Delta. You can see like a Mississippi blues band.
Oh
or
yeah.
Chicago
Well,
blues.
you mentioned, Little John. I think of Little John. I think of Dr. John. But the reason I said that is I can totally see you having like a little podcast booth at Jazz Fest and interviewing both fans and the acts as they come off stage for your podcast.
Oh, I'd love to do that. Yeah, that's a future idea.
I think I can totally see you doing that.
I definitely like to do that.
I love Jazz Fest. It's one of my favorite things. I tend to go every year. I make it my mission. It is just one of the most amazing things. So there's a couple of things that happen back to back. Jazz Fest is the last weekend in April and the first weekend in May. And the Kentucky Derby is the first weekend in May. So
wow.
I always have those 2 weeks off, and I go to New Orleans the last week in April for the opening of Jazz Fest. And then I travel on up, and then I love to go to the Kentucky Derby. So that is something.
Like to watch that. Yeah, that's cool.
I love the horses, and I love it. Really, it's the Super Bowl of Southern fashion.
Yeah, so, yeah, I can imagine
it's so fantastic. Deal. Yeah, it's so fantastic. So
dressed to the nines, trying to show up.
Yeah, you can tell the people who are experiencing, the Kentucky Derby for the first time, because they kind of underplay it. And then as soon as they get there, they're like, because, when you're dressing for the Derby the first time, you think, oh my gosh, I look like a clown. This is nuts. There's no way that, I can show up like this. And then you get there and you're like, okay, this is nothing. I mean, everybody is all in. All in. So cool. I love that. Yeah,
that's a big fashion thing. Yeah, it's that's not New York. That's not Paris.
It's very different.
It's different.
Yeah, it is. But I also love the Jazz Fest experience, because I love music and you can just get everything there. So I'm going to put it into the universe that you are somehow going to make that a trip that involves business, and it's going to be a tax write-off, and it's going to be a huge boom for your business and your podcast.
That's a really cool thing to put out there. I do appreciate that. Again, something, I've always wanted. A big aspiration for us is to actually eventually take the podcast on the road and actually bring it to the artists in the country where they are, right? So if I wanted to interview a Japanese band, I go to Tokyo. If I wanted to interview Waterflower, like where she is, I go to Latvia and actually interview her there. We've been pushing that, pitching that to some sponsors to get the ideas like we could level up and move to that direction. That's an aspiration that we had, and you're on the same frequency with that. Would talk about what you just mentioned, but that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, well, there's, I think that the music festival, option is certainly a great way to prove the difference that it makes. Because it's one thing meeting an artist when they come right off stage. I mean, the energy when you've got 50,000 people at Jazz Fest screaming your name and you're so excited to get them right off the stage. I can imagine would be a completely different podcast experience.
Oh yeah, that's something we've always been in. We've actually we had some ideas, but yeah, that is the idea to get somebody like preparing for the show, maybe the whole week setting up, watching them do it, and then get on stage, watch them on stage, and then get them off stage has been an idea. So you're clued into that too. That's a good
Look at that.
get the right ideas.
I'm giving voice to what you've already thought of. But anyway, we're putting it in the universe, you and me.
That's awesome. But we do I wanted to mention like the shop homeandheartagain.com. If people go there, maybe you can talk more about what happens when somebody goes there right now when you click on that.
Yeah. So when you go to, thank you for that. So when you go to shophomeandheart.com, you see all of the products that I have actually brought to the Home and Heart, studio within General Hospital. And those are all the products that you have seen developed within the show. So if they've made it to, Home and Heart, which is the fictional shopping network within General Hospital, then you can also find it on, Shop Home and Heart. So what you see is, jewelry that a lot of your favorite stars have worn. You see, the products that are being developed within Deception Beauty. There are handbags that you see on the show and clothes, and there are a lot more products that are actually being licensed and being approved every day. So it's ultimately the place for you to shop your favorite soap and see all the products that you've witnessed within the show. So it's shophomeandheart.com. But you can also find me at Shop with Pearl, because I don't know if I mentioned, but Pearl is my stage name. It's my character's name on General Hospital. So if you go to shopwithpearl.gh on Instagram, you can also, link to all of the products that way as well.
That's awesome. Well, hope everybody will check that one out as well. That will be fully clickable, the Home and Heart, in the podcast description. That's set up as every podcast that this gets distributed to, every channel from like Apple to iHeartRadio to Spotify video podcast. In the description, that shop Home and Heart will be clickable. So that will be evaluated that we have. Awesome. So yeah, it's just cool to actually see all the different roles you have from radio, TV. Have you thought about going into movies?
Oh, I would never say no. But I will tell you, acting is not easy. Have you ever been an actress? Have you ever had a role?
Nah, I've never done that. I mean, I've just been, on stage playing music, but never.
I have a lot more respect. It is not that easy. But at the same time, I believe in law. I want to live to be 100. I don't know about you, but I'm 54, and in my mind, I'm only halfway there. So I definitely want to, live well into my 90s. I want to make it to 100 for sure. But what I mean is I want to be vibrant. So, I am actually on air right now with Morgan Fairchild. So the fact that she's almost 80 and, she is like, yeah, still doing it and doing it well. And I think about people like, being Southern, one of my icons was Dolly Parton. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
that woman is amazing, right? So there's so many amazing, examples of people who can still be vibrant and, contributing and being
you don't
innovative.
have to give it up. It's not a youth game anymore. Like even in music, everybody's always like it used to be. People would think it's like, well, you're 17 to 25, then you're done, right? But if you think about like a lot of artists, they're still doing. The Stones are still out there. Yeah, like all the jazz musicians, Herbie Hancock's still out there. Yes. If you're a blues guy, you never stop until you're not here, right?
Yeah.
Blues and jazz, we don't stop. It's like pop music has this idea that there's a expiration date, but other like hard rock, the Stones, you know, Dylan's still doing shows. You know,
Yeah. I
you don't
actually
stop.
saw Dizzy Gillespie in New York City at the Blue Note a week before he passed away.
You don't stop. I mean,
No.
every blues guy I've ever heard, they just go until they're done.
Yeah.
You don't stop.
So, you talk about, would I do a movie? Heck yeah. I would give it a shot. That's for sure. I'm not a no girl. I actually hate the word no. I cannot stand it. I don't like saying it. I don't like hearing it. I
Mhm.
am a yes person. So, yeah, I'm definitely someone who would say yes.
That's cool. Well, they never know what role you could pick. Somebody could see you on General Hospital, the film director, and say you're going to fit this role, and then they pitch it. Because once you get out there, like once you're showing up, you show up, and then people see you, and they say, "Well, yeah, this person would work great here." This person looks like they could handle this, and so that's why I always tell a lot of people who procrastinate or they're like, "Well, it's not good enough. I'm not going to show it." If you put something out in the universe, you don't know, like law of attraction, who's going to pick up on it. So like you have to not like stop your opportunities by like holding back. Like,
Yeah.
don't hold back and like put the stuff out there and let people come to you because it will happen.
You are a wise man. That is great advice. And most of us are not drawn to perfection. It's really, I remember, I don't know if I told you, but I actually studied to be a sportscaster because I thought that's
Mm.
what I was going to do.
I think you'd
So,
be good at it. You'd be good at it.
well, thank you. I didn't get a job, but I studied to be a sportscaster. And so going through, broadcast journalism school and media studies and all that stuff, they really beat my accent out of me. And they did not want me to be someone, who could be identifiable as being Southern. And I remember the first time I was on a reality show where I was the makeover artist, and I got excited about something, and I kind of let my accent fly, and I became very much hillbilly or redneck or whatever.
Oh no.
And after that, the producers came to me, and I thought for sure I was in trouble. They were like, "We need more of that. The more you can be of yourself, the more
It's
you
a
will
secret sauce.
endear."
Yeah,
Yes, the more
that's
you
what.
will endear the public.
Well, because everybody's heard like the canned voice that everybody thinks you're supposed to have. And what I always tell people, like, if you're an artist, like, people want to hear what's on that demo tape that you're scared of because it doesn't sound like anything else, because that's what your secret sauce is. Like, your authentic self is your is your is your ticket. But a
Yeah.
lot of people don't believe that because they're just in the comparison trap and they think they got to be like, then brand X. So you don't got to be like brand X. It's like you need to be like you, brand you.
It's so true. Oh, I don't know how. Oh, there we go. I don't know how that happened. But yes, no, you're absolutely right. And then the other thing that I think about a lot is some of my favorite um things to watch, like on Saturday Night Live, or everybody loves bloopers. Like we all love the mistakes.
Yeah,
And
happy
so just
accident.
like you're talking about, yeah, just like you're talking about on a demo, we are rarely really attracted to perfection. Most of the time we are attracted to something that's real or authentic. And like you say, when you're just your authentic self. So I think you're
Sure.
absolutely correct.
Yeah, vulnerabilities are what people, why do I want to go see a show and see the guy sound exactly like he does on the master on the CD? Or do I want to see him go in the show and actually do the solo a little different than what he did on the CD? Or do that,
Yeah.
phrase it different, or actually present the song. And people today sometimes they get in this trap and they want to be in the box and do exactly what they did and just make it sound exactly what was on the record. It's like, well, I could just listen to the record. Why would I go to that show if it's gonna sound just like the record? I don't want it to sound just like the record.
It's such a good thought. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So I definitely believe that, I'm eager, I'm open to whatever's next. I'm not afraid. And yeah, I'm not afraid of making mistakes, or who knows, maybe I'll put out an album. Maybe you and I will record an album.
Albums are cool. People got to buy getting vinyl was awesome. But yeah, I'm a child of the '70s again. It always slips out. But thank you for being here because it's always awesome to talk to people. I got to talk to somebody from General Hospital, And that's a show I watched, Luke and Laura as a kid. And I was like, I wouldn't have ever thought I'd talk to anybody involved in that show. So like, just being out here gives me all these opportunities. I'm just thankful that you came on the show today. Really appreciate it. It's been really cool. And again, everybody check out shophomeandheart.com and check out all the stuff you do, from your radio to your podcast that's coming up. Yeah, that's awesome. It's
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
Yeah.
I've loved our conversation. I'm a fan.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Wonderful. Have a great night. Bye now.
Bye-bye.